So in today's lesson, we're going to make a transition elbow or a drop cheek elbow. Throughout the video, you will hear me say full drop and half drop. The fitting is going from 12 to 8, so it's changing 4. So the half drop is 2 and the full drop is 4, but we have to establish those points so that we could draw out our radiuses. Now you can use this fitting for many different things. When I came into the trade, we didn't make a T or an elbow and then go to a transition. We did everything in one fitting. We still do. When you're doing exposed ductwork, that's the worst thing to look at, to do a double fitting to get the result you want. You could also use this triangulation method to make a pair of pants that goes from one size to 2 different sizes, or the same size, whatever you want to do. So with that said, let's get into the video and I'll show you how to make it. Okay, so we're going to make our drop cheek elbow. Our drop cheek elbow is going to be 12 by 12 to 12 by 8. We'll be dropping the side down 4. So the first thing we want to do is scribe our lines. So we scribed 1 inch line on the side and the bottom for our working line. So we're going to use a 6-inch throat. So we're going to set our radius to 5 because we want to leave a connection. I'll do some of this in marker today, but we're also going to punch points. So again, we're going to scribe our 6-inch throat, but we scribed it at 5, again, because we are already in an inch. Now we want to scribe our 3/16 line for our Pittsburgh. Now we're going from 12 on the cheek. So the cheek is going to be square. It's going to be going from 12 to 12. So the top is going to be dropping down. So now we want to scribe our heel. Add your 3/16 and punch your points. Punch your points on your actual punch your points on your actual dimension. Do not punch them on your Pittsburgh allowances. So now what we have is A, B, C, D, and E. You can label these whatever you want. You don't have to label, you can label them 1 through 7, doesn't matter. This is probably one of the hardest fittings you can do because it's tough to remember. This is actually harder to remember than doing a squared around. So now what we want to do is we want to bisect D to B, and that's going to give us the halfway point through our fittings. So go from C to the bisect you just drew. That gives you the halfway point through your fitting. And that is going to give you point F and point G. We'll do a center punch on the actual line, not on your Pittsburgh allowance. Sorry about this dirty piece of metal. It's the last sheet I had on the bench. So now that we have our points established, we're going to draw our true length line. So just come over to the side of the fitting, draw a 90-degree line. Now we know that halfway through the fitting, because we're going from 12 to 8, we're going from 12 by 12. The first number is always the side you're looking at. Then we're going to 12 by 8. So the fitting is dropping 4 inches when it gets to E. But halfway through the fitting, because it's dropping 4, we know we're only dropping 2. So we have to establish where the halfway point is. So now we want to draw a line at 2. We're going to start from that line we just drew. So now we want to draw our true length line. I'll do this in marker so you can see it. So now we want to establish a point at 2 and a point at 4. Again, full, drop, half drop. Do 2 center punches. So now we have our triangulation, our true length. So now the first set of points we want to establish are going to be from A to F. The second point is going to be B to F. So A to F, Then we want B to F. The next point we want is D to F. And D to F is the same as B to F. Now that is not uncommon when you have a square fitted. The next point we want to develop is E to F. So AF and EF are the same because our fitting is square. So now the next set of points we want to find is B to G. And B to G is a halfway point. That's BG. That's BG. And G to D. But again, our fitting is square, so G to D is going to be the same. And the last part we want to find is B to D. B, D. And B to D is a full drop. Okay, now we're going to start our drop cheek. We're going to start laying this out. So the first thing we want to do is we want to lay out the bottom of our fitting. Bottom of our fitting is going to be 12. Now this is going to be A. This is going to be B. We're going to swing the fitting away from this one because it's going to fold over on the top of that one. So we want to be opposite. So the first line we want to scribe is A through F. And A through F is a half drop. So we're going to swing A to F. And then we're going to swing B to F. B to F is a half drop. We're in the middle of the fitting. Okay, just verify that. Almost got my lines confused there. So that is point F. The next point we want to find is F to D. We're going to scribe F to D. We're looking for D. We're looking for this point. Now what we want to do is we want to go BD. And BD is a full drop. That's BD. So this is now point D. Now we want to find point E. So we want to scribe D to E. D to E is a true length. It's going to be 12. We don't have to triangulate that. So we could just take 12 here. I'm just taking it here. It's still 12 inches that's over here. This is the same measurement. And we're going to scribe D to E. Now we want to find point E from F. So we need F to E. Again, same spot. Also, it's only half a drop because we're going down 2 inches from here. Now we've established point E. Now what we can do is we can connect these two lines just so you can see that because this fitting is dropping, the line is longer, the radius is different. And now we want to find G, and G is a half drop. So all we got to do is go to D and B. What point G is going to give us is another set of bisects. So now we're going to bisect D to G. This is going to give us a radius point to draw this arc. Now we want to go G to B. Same thing. It's hard not to lose yourself in all these lines. This is why they invented cybermation machines. So now we've reestablished basically what was point C. And if you did this right, they'll both connect. Add your 3/16 back in for your throat. Hope you guys can see that. So now what we want to do is the same thing between F and E and A. We want to bisect these quadrants out again. We're going to divide it into quadrants. I just drew one big circle there. So find your cross points. So now that just gave me a point to go from A to E. Add your 3/16 back in. Just drawing some marks so you guys can see it because this piece of metal is horrible. We have, this is going to be flat on bottom. This is going to be our top cheek. Now what you're going to do is, when you go to put this in the brake, this is going to kick down. That one's going to kick up from the outside. Now the other thing we have to do is we were taking our marks from inside the 1 inch. So even though we still have it down here, we didn't add it back up here. So we have to add it to there because we only went to E and D. So now you want to add your 1 inch back in. So all we have to do now is cut out our fittings. We can do our 3/16 for our Pittsburghs, and then we can measure our heel and throat, and we could develop those two pieces. All right, so I've already given this cheek a slight kick in the brake. Let the machine do the work for you. Once you have that first bend in there, it'll just follow itself right through. As you can see, our fitting is going to drop down. Now we'll do our flat bottom. And there's no specific order that you have to do this in. Again, let the tool do the work for you. This is a machine I'm restoring. It's called a groover. It's about 100 years old, if not more. I just had it all glass beaded and putting it back together. What that does is that puts what they call a groove seam in a piece of pipe or anything you want to make, really. Now, what I failed to mention in the beginning of the video was that I was dropping the fitting to the left. So just keep in mind when you're laying out which way you're dropping the fitting while you're laying it out. If it's a square fitting like this where the 12 or whatever measurement you have carries through, technically you could reverse this and reverse the elbow, but just keep that in mind of what way you're laying it out. Now we need to measure our cheeks for our wrap, for our heel and our throat. You could use a little tape measure, you could use a ruler, you could use math. I simply just roll it on the ruler and I get 29. 28 and 7/8. So we get 28 and 7/8 there. It's good practice to just write your numbers down. The throat, I already measured it. You could do math here. You could do 3.14 times. So our throat was 6, which is a 12-inch diameter. So you would multiply that times pi and then divide it by 4, and you would get 9 and 7/8. Sometimes they come out a little shorter. So it's always better to just take a little tape measure and measure it. Because if your metal's off a little bit or something's off, the math isn't going to work for you. But technically you can do it that way. Is we know that our fitting is dropping to the left. I'm going to scribe 1 inch all the way around. Now we know that our height at this end is 8, but we need our Pittsburgh allowance, which is 1 for each side. So we're going to go 10 here. This should be 14, which it is. So you only need to measure the bottom cheek. You don't need to measure the cheek that's changing. This cord length in the way that it's changing is automatically going to come up for that cheek. Like I've said in the transition videos, you're measuring the corresponding side to get the length. So we found that side. Now I'm going to scrap the 1 inch out in here just to make sure it doesn't drop off on me. And we'll just cut that. And we'll notch that in a second. Go. Almost made a mistake. So same thing here. But we're doing the inside now. So we actually want to go opposite of the way we were going before. Just check it before you roll it and you Pittsburgh it and make sure you don't have it up backwards. So now we have our 12 there. Our total piece is 14. We're going to scribe our 8 in the middle. Now, if you remember our earlier videos, I always say that when you have very steep angles, draw your Pittsburghs out. Because if I just put it on here, I'm going to lose quite a bit. So sometimes on really steep angles, it's just easier to draw them out. Okay, so now we'll cut our notches. So Pittsburgh. Always good practice to mark your fittings and mark them on the inside so that nobody makes a mistake when they get over to the break or the Pittsburgh. And again, our pieces are opposite each other because that's just the way they're going to lay out. And same thing again, we're going to do Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh. You don't have to use these symbols. You could write Pitts. So I'm going to run these through the Pittsburgh, and then I'm going to roll them real quick. It's always good practice to just go over to the brake and give yourself a little crease on your slip and drive lines, just so the guys out in the field aren't struggling with this edge when they're trying to put something together. For rolling these big cheeks, I just put them over the edge of the bench. You don't really need to go over to the roller to do that. So, as I say in every video, just tack it together first in case something's wrong. There's no shame in having to open up a Pittsburgh. So, there it is. Now, the only thing I failed to do is I failed to kick this side up and this side down, but you could do that with a bar folder. But there's your fitting. It did break my balls a little bit putting it together, but that's just because all the crazy angles involved. And there you have it. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.